Sounds good. Thank you very much for having me. Excited to be here and talk a little bit about what we've been up to at Origin, building on top of Ethereum and IPFS. I'll start off just by giving a little bit of context as far as what we're building, why we're building it, and then we'll dig into a few of the particulars as far as what we've built, and then end with a Q&A, and definitely happy to answer any questions you guys might have. One thing I'm going to also do towards the end is give everybody an opportunity to use one of our dApps with some ETH that we'll give you through a faucet that is going to be open during this presentation. So thanks again for having me. My name is Jon. I work on BD over at Origin, where we are building a blockchain platform for building decentralized marketplaces. So about 25 years ago, the way people transacted completely changed with Craigslist and eBay, and people went from buying goods and services from businesses to buying them from other people. Since then, many other similar online marketplaces have been created, more recently Airbnb and Uber in the sharing economy. And many of these marketplaces are commonly referred to as peer-to-peer, but the truth is that they're not. There's a big company sitting in the middle, collecting data and monetizing that data. So the blockchain is a very good fit for disintermediating these marketplaces, and that's why our mission at Origin is to enable true peer-to-peer commerce. So there's four main reasons why we think this is really important, and then I'll get into the juicy stuff as far as what we've actually built and what we plan to build in the future. The first main reason that disintermediating these marketplaces can be very helpful is it can lower fees. These fees are generally 20 to 30%, sometimes higher in extreme cases. And if you can cut out this middleman, you can put these fees back into the pockets of the buyers and the sellers. The second reason, which is also in the financial incentive category, is to redistribute value more fairly throughout these networks. So we like to ask, what is the first Uber driver doing today? Probably still driving for Uber, but probably making less money than they were day one. With these crypto economic frameworks, you can actually incentivize the early users of the network who can also benefit from the growth and the health of the network, unlike Uber, where just the founders, investors, and early employees will benefit from the huge upside of the IPO. The next two reasons are in the access category. So we want to promote free and open commerce. These marketplaces are banned or heavily regulated in many cities throughout the world. In San Francisco, Airbnb was forced by the government to remove 50% of their listings in one day. And whether or not you agree with why they did this, it's a little bit scary that Airbnb, as a single point of failure, can make it very easy for a government to enforce these regulations. So we want to see what the blockchain can do to some of these cities that are not able to use these services for those reasons. And the last is to serve the unbanked. There are billions of people that do not have access to credit cards or bank accounts and can therefore not use these online marketplaces. But what they do have is access to cheap Android phones, many of which will have cryptocurrency wallets. And so we think a lot of their first interactions with these online marketplaces will be blockchain powered and cryptocurrency powered, and they'll be able to leapfrog the traditional financial system. So how did we go about building this? This is the general architecture. At the very base layer, we have a set of protocols, which are Ethereum smart contracts. Everything we've built at Origin is 100% open source. So check out our GitHub. I'll share the link later. But we've built a lot of stuff and definitely want to encourage everybody here to take a look, comment, collaborate, fork it, do whatever you'd like. We just want to share all the things we've built. So at the base layer, we have a set of smart contracts to represent things like listings, identity, etc. on the blockchain. But we wanted to abstract a lot of this away. So our initial idea was that not a lot of developers know Solidity, but they do know JavaScript. So we will be releasing a JavaScript library soon that abstracts away a lot of the complexities of the blockchain and allows a developer to quickly build a decentralized marketplace on Ethereum and IPFS. And instead of needing to rebuild all of the infrastructure of a marketplace, they can just focus on customer acquisition, customer onboarding, and anything specific to their marketplace. The next thing that the first thing we actually released though, ahead of this library, was a marketplace creator. I'll show you a little bit what this looks like in a bit here, but we wanted to get this out to users as quickly as possible. And so we wanted to make a very simple way for non-developers to create a marketplace. So you can now create a marketplace that is built on Origin and decentralized using Ethereum and IPFS by filling out a simple form, uploading your logo and customized colors, and quickly spinning up one of these marketplaces that your users can start using. It's really important to us to get this into the hands of end users, and so this was one of the steps in that direction. And then lastly, we've built a few dApps on top of both our framework that we've launched kind of internally, as well as the marketplace creator itself. So I'll tell you about some of these marketplaces in a bit, but we wanted to build on top of our own framework and show the community what's possible when it comes to these decentralized marketplaces. Today, it's a relatively straightforward marketplace that also has recently supported fractional usage of assets so that we can cater towards home sharing and other sharing economy use cases. So this is what the marketplace creator looks like. There's a little GIF here on the side that shows you what it looks like to fill out the form, but you can see it's pretty straightforward, doesn't require any code. And eventually we're going to be doing some experimentation that will allow marketplace operators to earn our Origin token as a commission for any transactions that go through their marketplace. So I'll talk a little bit more about some of the token use cases in a bit. But the idea is you can quickly create one of these marketplaces that's customized to your branding and your colors, and get something going quickly. And then soon, like I mentioned, we will release this JavaScript library, at which point it will be much more customizable, and you'll be able to do a lot more when it comes to building out a decentralized marketplace. All right. So as far as a couple of things that we had to build in order to make this possible, one of the first things that we tackled, and one of the most important things, which a lot of teams are working on, is identity. So how do you solve for identity in this blockchain world? And with marketplaces especially, once you solve identity, it becomes much easier to address things like dispute resolution and reviews, arbitration, etc. So we actually were the first working implementation of a standard called ERC 725, which was proposed by Fabian Vogelsteller. So you can check out everything we've built around that. But more recently, we've made some other approaches that allow us to deploy these contracts much more cheaply. So you can see it's down to only about a penny to deploy, whereas it was a few dollars when we initially launched the ERC 725 implementation. But the idea here is that it's a self-sovereign identity. You own the smart contract, and you can make third-party attestations, things like phone number, email, social media profiles, that will tie your Ethereum wallet address to these various services and give the counterparty and the transaction more trust about the fact that you're an actual person. Today, none of this information is specifically published to the blockchain. It's just more of a Boolean where you can verify that they've used one of these or that they've confirmed, they have a phone number, an email address, or a Twitter profile, for example. But we see this as expanding to many other use cases. For example, sending a postcard to a home to verify that they control a mailbox before a home sharing listing. So we're excited to see all of the different attestations that are added to this over time. And this is very much a work in progress. So again, appreciate everybody commenting, collaborating, giving your feedback on what we've built, fork it, build something better. I'd love to see what you can do with it. We've also took a crack at something we're calling sponsored gas. It's also been referred to as meta transactions, but the general idea is that a lot of these interactions with these marketplaces will essentially have a cost in the form of gas costs to the Ethereum network, but we don't want to make it more difficult than it already is for users to interact with dApps. So one thing we're working on in this light is to allow marketplace operators to cover the gas fees for the user. So in our first implementation of this, we actually made it so that a new user to Origin, an Origin-powered dApp, can actually create a listing without any ETH to pay for the gas. So what happens is they create this listing and all the information is stored locally. And once the buyer comes along and sends their ETH into the smart contract for the transaction, that ETH is used to pay for the gas and confirm all of the transaction data to the blockchain. So again, there's a lot more that can be done with this, but the general idea is we want to make it much easier for users to be onboarded onto these decentralized applications and not have to pay for simple things. So another example would be we would want, obviously, users to leave reviews, and we can't necessarily expect them to do this consistently if there's a cost. So we not only want to potentially cover this gas cost as a marketplace operator, but we'll also experiment with incentivizing them with our Origin token as well. So these are the three marketplaces that we have launched in-house today. The first, which is today just called Origin Beta, is available at dap.originprotocol.com. It is a meta marketplace that actually aggregates all of the listings from all Origin-powered marketplaces. This was our first marketplace that we launched, so it has the most listings, and you'll notice that it has many different types of listings on there as well. We've also launched two in-house marketplaces that are vertical specific. The first is Pure Art, which is available at pureart.io, and the second is Crypto Merch at cryptomerch.io. These last two were both built using our marketplace creator, and they're pretty straightforward. Crypto Merch has swag and merch from different crypto projects. Pure Art has tons of artists that have listed their art, both crypto and non-crypto. And the important thing here is there's no transaction fees. So outside of any gas costs, the seller's going to get all of the purchase price, and there's no fees to use these platforms. There will be cheap, very cheap, basically free t-shirts for you guys to buy through either Crypto Merch or dap.originprotocol.com very soon here as part of this presentation. But before that, just wanted to talk about what one of a team called ZoidCoin has done with our code. So we are working on all sorts of stuff. Today we have a mobile wallet that is available on iOS, but we're working on updating and improving that and getting it out for Android. We're also working on supporting other ERC20 tokens. The first will likely be a stable coin, but in the future we want to support our partners' tokens as well. But a group out of Europe called ZoidCoin wanted to get ahead of our product roadmap. So they went ahead and hacked together a little experience that they called Zoid Shop, which is a marketplace for various goods, jewelry, watches, all sorts of stuff like that. But because they wanted to support Android and their native ZCN ERC20 token, they hacked something together. It's important to know that it doesn't use our smart contracts when you use ZCN. And so it's definitely a hack together experience. So don't want to oversell it by any means, but we like to see this type of activity from the developer community. Of course, we'd love if you could hack on, what we have in our GitHub and support our ecosystem, but we understand that, sometimes you got to go and build something on your own. So either way, I just want to show you that, we've built a very solid foundation that I think a lot of developers can take and do something very interesting with, whether it's using one small piece of what we've built or the entire big picture, we love when people get their hands dirty and start hacking on our code. So just wanted to highlight something that was built in that fashion. All right, so just for the next 5 minutes or so, I want to walk you guys through what it's like to use a dApp, or basically a very high-level process of using a dApp that I can do my best to walk you through with my words, since we are very limited on time here, and then I want to make sure to give time for some Q&A. But you can get basically a free shirt if you go through this process. So number one, make sure you're connected to Wi-Fi, have internet. I'm assuming you all do. You're dialed in, so that should be good. And you're also going to need a wallet, of course, to interact with this dApp. So if you're at your computer, obviously MetaMask is actually going to probably be the best bet, but generally people always have a phone, so we usually suggest for this case to use Coinbase Wallet. This will be, of course, until we release our mobile app that is a full marketplace experience coming soon. And then, of course, keep your funds SAFU, write down your recovery phrase, make sure you can back up your funds and your private keys if needed. So if you guys have already done all that, hopefully you have. If not, I will try to take a little bit more time on this section so you guys have some time to catch up. But the next step is going to be to get some ETH. So we want to make it very easy for you guys, not give you any excuses not to try this out. So if you use this faucet by going to ogn.dev/NuCypher, you're going to get, since it's the NuCypher Hackathon for CoinList, that's why we use that invite code, you're going to get a very small amount of ETH, but it's going to be enough to complete your profile on Origin and to purchase a listing that is hidden, I'll say, on there. I mean, it's in plain sight, but make you guys look around a little bit for it. But basically give you $1 or so worth of ETH, and that's enough to complete your profile and buy one of these cheap Origin HODL shirts. So you'll actually want to look on cryptomerch.io or on dApp.originprotocol.com for the title Origin Workshop t-shirt, and you'll be able to do it. But the first step you're going to need to do is complete your profile and complete at least one of these attestations in order for us to finalize the transaction and get you your shirt. We'll make sure that you've completed your profile and added a picture and all that good stuff. Doesn't take very much time, but make sure to do it. So backing up just a bit, once you've received your ETH through that faucet, you're going to want to send it to your wallet, whether that's your Coinbase wallet or MetaMask. And once it's in your wallet, then you should be able to find and purchase that shirt. So this is obviously a very high level process. Since we didn't have a ton of time today, and I wanted to give you guys a little bit of context as well as leave time for questions, I wanted to keep it high level rather than digging deep into each individual step. But if you have any questions, this faucet will be open until noon, and I will share my email at the end of this presentation if you guys have any questions, or you can even pop them into the chat here as well. So I'll just give that a second for you guys to go through if you are. All right. So if you guys want to learn more, first and foremost, feel free to email me directly, Jon, Jon, @originprotocol.com. Also, check out our website, of course, at originprotocol.com. We do all of our communication and collaboration out in the open. So if you join our Discord, you can introduce yourself, say hello to our engineering team, join our conversation, see what we're up to. We also do a weekly public engineering call every Wednesday at 1 o'clock Pacific. So if you're ever interested in meeting the team in a more, I guess, personable setting where you can actually see faces and hear voices, definitely encourage you guys to join and introduce yourself and just listen to what we're up to and how we work. And then, of course, jump in and collaborate. On our GitHub, which you'll see a link here to as well, there, again, all of our code's open source. All of our hiring has come from, and the last 5 engineering hires have all come from our open source contributors. So we encourage everybody to take a stab at a nice, easy first issue, which we added a tag for on GitHub. It's called Good First Issue, I think. And so, we want to make it easy for people to collaborate and give feedback and make suggestions and that sort of stuff. We also do a ton of writing on Medium. Check that out. And if you're on Telegram, you can join there as well. So that is it for the actual presentation side of things. I'm happy to go back and cover, any of the slides or dig into any questions or anything like that. But let me pop into the chat here, see if I can make this a little bit easier. But let me know if you guys have any questions. Thanks for the free ETH. Hopefully you're using that free ETH to create your Origin profile and buy one of the cheap Origin shirts. They're cheap in price, but not in quality. They're actually very comfortable. So I would encourage you guys to do that. It's really important to us to get users using this. So that's why we're doing stuff like this when it comes to the faucet and these cheap t-shirts. It's not because we want to give away free ETH just because we're good people. It's because we think it's important to spread the mission and get people using this stuff. So, and somebody's asking, without a profile, how we would know where to send it. This is part of our process when it comes to fulfillment. So on our end, we will be finalizing transactions with buyers once they've completed their profile and given us shipping information and what size of a t-shirt they want us to send. So that will be all part of the process once you've started the transaction, and then we'll go on our end and finalize it. We have a chat system within Origin that we can use to communicate with you guys. Also, that's all open source. Take a look, see what we're up to there. A lot of changes happening on how we're approaching chat, but again, would love everybody to communicate, collaborate, etc. All right, so somebody's asking about how we're built on top of IPFS and the thought process behind that. So thanks for popping these questions in here, guys. By the way, feel free to just pop them in whenever they come into mind, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. So when it comes to IPFS, obviously, at a high level, scaling is a major issue when it comes to dApps. When it comes to thinking about marketplaces with millions of users, we obviously get a lot of questions about, why did you choose Ethereum? How are you guys going to deal with scaling? So one of the first decisions we made from that perspective was to store as much data off-chain as possible. So instead of storing things like the description of the listings and all of that type of information, the pictures, etc., instead of storing it on chain, we store it on IPFS and store a hash of that address on chain. And that obviously, makes it a much more efficient as far as what we need to store on chain is at a minimum. And so that gives us a little bit of a gain there. That being said, there's all sorts of other ways we're going to need to tackle scalability. Not only, things that we can do on the application layer, but we're obviously staying very close to the teams working on layer 2 solutions. And, at the end of the day, we're willing to roll up our sleeves if we feel like we need to and things aren't moving quickly enough. We might have to jump in and work on some protocol layer scaling solutions as well. We have a pretty strong senior team of engineers. So we're hopeful that the strong Ethereum community can solve a lot of these problems. And, today there's just not enough users using dApps to really need to deal with scaling anyway. So we're going to, deal with that as it comes. But yeah, that's how we thought about it when it comes to IPFS, just storing as much data as possible off-chain. Shippable worldwide. As far as the t-shirt, I guess it depends exactly how far you are, but shoot us a note in the chat and we'll work with you on something there. Want everybody to use our app. We're very much global. So we actually have some people working out of Asia as well. We could potentially have them send you a shirt from there. But definitely interested in everybody from every country joining us, joining our mission. We have investors, contributors from all over the world, engineers in Slovenia and New Zealand, and contributors from many other countries. So really want everybody involved. You can set up your Origin profile by clicking on the little icon in the top right here, and then clicking Edit Profile down at the bottom. That will bring you to an area where you'll be able to add your picture, description, bio, and complete these attestations. Again, please make sure to do that so that we can fulfill your order for that crypto t-shirt. Somebody's asking for a recording of the webinar or deck. I will look into the recording. Certainly happy to share the deck with everybody here and answer any questions you guys have after this presentation as well. Feel free to email me. Somebody's asking about a fiat to crypto gateway. I'll just generally cover how we're thinking about payment. Today, we currently only support ETH as payment. We will, at the smart contract level, we do support ERC20 tokens, of course, but in the UI, it's just ETH today. We will be announcing support for another ERC20 stablecoin very soon, so stay tuned there. And we also understand that our partners and third-party marketplaces that build on top of us will likely want to use their own tokens for payment as well. So we intend to figure out the best way to do that from a UX perspective. But we do think stablecoins are going to be very important to these ecosystems. If you book a house today and don't stay there for 2 months, crypto volatility will yield somebody losing in that transaction if they don't have a stable currency. So that's something we're paying a lot of attention to. Ultimately, and this is what the question was, fiat to crypto gateway, we definitely would love for some sort of fiat to crypto gateway. We're exploring a lot of different options. I think there's some exciting stuff happening in the space, but there's a lot of regulation to work around as well. We're based in the United States, so because of that, we're pretty conservative when it comes to all sorts of stuff, and we want to just make sure we're being very careful with what we're doing. So we're willing to do whatever it takes to make this easy for the user. And payment is obviously going to be a big part of that. All right, so somebody said, you talked about these marketplaces being protected from government shutdown due to no central point of failure. Could you speak on how including a privacy layer would help protect Origin users? Obviously, a very relevant question here. At a high level, it's important to separate the protocol that we are building from, let's say, a marketplace that we've built on top of it. So we don't think these types of decisions as far as which home sharing listings are okay and which are not should be made on the technology layer. We think it should be made more on the application layer, and it's up to the marketplace operators to decide and work with their governments on how they want their marketplaces to work. That being said, privacy is obviously a huge issue with marketplaces in many different ways. So one example is if I rent out my home, I don't want to share that address with the world. I certainly don't want to publish it to the blockchain, so it's immutably there forever. I want to give control to somebody who books my home to view that address, let's say once they've paid for the booking or something like that. So privacy is going to be a big part of many marketplaces. One thing that it's important for me to mention here, since I'm not sure I did before, we are building this to be a very generic horizontal marketplace platform. We have launched a couple verticals. We're very excited about some specific verticals like home sharing, but we anticipate many, many different marketplace verticals to be built, thousands of marketplace, hundreds of verticals, and we don't really know what's going to win, what's going to be biggest or most important. So that being said, something like privacy is obviously going to be a big factor for a lot of these marketplaces. We want to give optionality to the people using Origin when it comes to everything from the users, the developers, to the marketplace operators. So because of that, we want to offer some smart defaults for a lot of problems and a lot of issues within these marketplaces. Privacy being one of them, but many others: dispute resolution, escrow, arbitration, reviews. All of these things we certainly want to have smart defaults for, but we want to give people options. So maybe you want to use your own smart contract, or maybe you want to use a trusted third party. So when it comes to privacy and dealing with private data on the public blockchain, we've been talking with NuCypher for a very long time about how do we get this into the hands of our marketplace operators and ultimately the users of these dApps. We're very excited about offering many different solutions to many different problems. And when it comes to privacy, obviously NuCypher is working on some really important things in the space. We are excited to think about all the different use cases that this is going to be important to. And that's where these users come in. We want to hear from the users in the community. What do you guys need and what do you guys want out of our platform when it comes to things like privacy? Somebody said, awesome Airbnb verification. Thank you very much. That's just, again, one example of how these attestations can work. You can anticipate many other different attestation types depending on the vertical of the marketplace. And today we are the third party essentially that performs these attestations. We've done so since it has to be done in a centralized manner to be done in this fashion and be able to cryptographically prove that the owner of an Ethereum wallet address also owns this phone number or email address. We've done it of course, in an open source fashion. So this attestation server is open source. Today we operate this and run our attestations, but in the future, you can use your own attestation server or another trusted third party, fork it, do whatever you have to do. A couple of questions about DAI and XDAI. Definitely very excited about what those guys are up to in the space. And I would say that everybody should stay tuned to all of the announcements that we have coming up around other ERC20 tokens that we're going to be supporting. All right. So wanted to, I guess, just open it up one last time to see if anybody had any questions about anything related to Origin, related to what we've built, what we're building. There is a ton on the horizon. There's a ton that we've launched already. It's all available in GitHub. Please check it out. And please let us know if you have questions, especially through Discord if you want the opportunity to get some answers from the engineering team. That's the best way to do it.
Hey, John, thank you so much for this presentation. This was really awesome. Great to learn about Origin, about what you guys are doing. Where's the best place where people can follow you to stay up to date on everything Origin?
Yeah, I would encourage, probably Discord is probably going to be the best place. We do, all sorts of different communication there, from the engineering side to product, community. So that's always a good starting point. We're on Twitter, Origin Protocol. Feel free to email me and say hello. We're very much open with, we like people to ask these questions out in the open. We don't, need you to ask any questions privately, because I'm sure other people have the same questions, and we try to do everything out in the open. One of our core values is to default to public. So don't hesitate to ask any of these hard questions publicly. We know this is a very hard problem we're solving. It's a very long journey, and we need all the help we can get and all the constructive criticism and feedback we can get. So don't hesitate to give your feedback. Somebody pointed out a nice little UI bug with a hard-coded message about MetaMask. Yeah, so today we actually started just with MetaMask, of course, when we first built this. We're working on rolling out support for a lot of different mobile wallets as well. And we're going to be releasing our own mobile wallet. There'll be a full-fledged marketplace in the near future. Today, we actually do have one for iOS if you want to experiment with it. That is used for signing transactions and receiving notifications. Again, it's all open source. Check it out. But yeah, a lot coming in the pipeline as far as supporting other wallets.
Great, John. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, thanks, everybody.
Have a good one.
Bye.